Hi there. Now, today we will talk about demographics and especially the bad demographics. And I say that demographics or bad demographics, particularly, is a poison pill which is killing China as well as the Western powers alike, except the case of United States, which is in somewhat better position, not really better position, but somewhat better position. So we all know that West is on a decline, not only strategically. Today, we are not going to talk much about strategy, but also in terms of demographics, as they are having an aging population and a very rapidly aging population. Similarly, we saw some time back that China is aging very fast, and they actually counted some 100 million people less in past few years. So what happened? They are they are rapidly declining and declining at an historical pace. I will rather like to say that the human history has never seen a more rapidly aging society as much as the Chinese society is. And why? Because they started the thing called one child policy, and one child policy plus unnaturally growing of cities, shifting of rural population by force as a cheap labor in the factories. What all these things lead to is a rapid decline in population. And why I say that? Because I say that because when you are living in the rural areas, you have ample land on which the children can play, on which you can build up your houses. You are not residing in an apartment. Plus, you are working in fields, so you need more of hands as a labor. So children are also free labor. You have ample place to have big houses, stuff like that. But when you shift to cities, and that too you are forced to shift to cities in small apartments, then things are really different. Then the education is very expensive, the cost of living is expensive, you don't have big homes, you have 1 BHK, 2 BHK kind of apartments. So people tend to produce less number of children, and on the top of that, the government makes a law of one child policy. Then the results are obvious. The society is aging very fast. Now, just to explain how the demographics work or should work, I have made a triangle. I think it's made of a waste paper. It's a triangle. You can see it, and I will divide this triangle into three parts. The apex portion, which is the shortest of all, should be made of the elderly population. So the percentage of elderly population in any society should be the minimum. So it must form the apex. Then the working age group must be the center portion, I think, which you can say between 25 to 60 years old. These people should form the middle segment. So you have ample number of people to work in factories and work in fields in different occupations, also in army, navy, air force, all this stuff. So the working population must be made of this portion, and the largest portion must be made of children, which will finally replace in some time this population, and this population will shift to the upper edge of the triangle, the apex of the triangle. It's the elderly population when these people will die. So this should be an ideal society, like a triangle of which the apex, the smallest portion, is formed by elderly people who need care, who can't work, so they are dependent. The middle portion should be formed of the people of working age group who are productive citizens who lead to your gross development product, the GDP, and the bottommost part, which is the largest part, must be made of children of various age group from 0 to, you can say, 16 or 17. But if you reverse this triangle like this, then try to understand what will happen of a society. Now you have these elderly population, which are the biggest, largest part of your society, followed by the working groups, which is much less than they must be, and children are at the bottom, which are the least. So then you can understand what a society is transferring itself into, and this is the state of China, this is the state of Japan, this is the state of various Western countries, except countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, because they are having education, free health, and all those things. So comparatively, their condition is much better. United States of America is comparatively better because they are it's huge country with a large ruler base. In the ruler base, people tend to produce more children. Plus, they also invite immigration. So their demographics is compensated by younger individuals immigrating to that country, but this is not the case with Japan. In After Second World War, Japan slowly became like that. China after 1970, 1980 rather, rapidly became like that after, because they forced the people from rural areas to quit their agricultural lands and go to go to factories and cities, and then they tend to produce less children. Now some people tell me that okay, they started the one child policy, now they can force their population for a two or three child policy. No, it can't be done like that. Why it can't be done like that? Because by law, you can force your population to produce less kids, to produce less children, but you can't force them to produce more children. That is something which is impossible, because once people tend to get the habit of producing less children, avoiding the institution of marriage, that these things become much difficult. And that's the difficulty what China is facing. That's the difficulty Western countries are facing. That's the difficulty even Russia is facing. And one of the reasons I'm not going into the morals of the war, the Ukraine war, but one of the reason behind that war is also the demographics. Because if not now, then Russia would have never done this war, because the demographics is in a very secular decline. Similar is the condition of France, similar is the condition of Germany. France suffered better, but Germany. Similar is the condition of Netherlands, similar is the condition of other countries except Norway, Sweden, Denmark, they are in Europe and United States. But if you look at India, India is comparatively, not comparatively, it is in a very good position. If you look at the countries of the Middle East, that is Western Asia, they are in a very good demographic condition. So now this is the time of these countries to take that demographic dividend, which China took in 1980, 1990. They not only took the dividend, but they ruined their demographics. Any questions, you kindly write in the comment box. I will try to address them. There are a few questions. Let me address those questions. Can government force people? No, I to produce more children. No, Prince, I already told you that you can force people to produce less children. You can't pressurize them to produce more children. Another question is, thus allowing immigration from North Africa to Europe was to solve the problem of demographic collapse? Yes, somewhat it was. Somewhat it was for cheaper labor in industries, etc. But it led to other issues, particularly the rise of far right. See, far right is bad, far left is bad. So it led to the rise of far right in there in Europe. And some people also argue that okay, if the demographics is bad, artificial intelligence and robots can replace them. I will come on this topic in one of my next video. But let me tell you one thing: artificial intelligence and robots can manufacture, can produce, but they cannot consume. So what about the consumption driven economy? Just leave the question for you. Thank you.